The first thing I need to mention about giving yourself credit for your achievements is that I haven't really done this at all until recently, until I've realized it was bad, and that's honestly why I'm making a video on it, because I think it's just really helped me to realize that, you should give yourself credit for your achievements. It does mean something. It does mean something to give yourself just some sort of importance, a label of importance by giving yourself credit. Like, for example, I used to like stuff my awards that I won for school and dance just in the back of my closet because I didn't really want people to see them, or I was embarrassed of them for some reason. I just thought that it was basically the equivalent of bragging. That was my mindset of it for so long until recently, really. And just like about 2 weeks ago, even I forgot to invite my parents to this award ceremony, and it wasn't that, like, I don't like my parents or anything. I would have enjoyed them to be there. It's just that in my mind, I didn't even realize the award ceremony was important, and that's why I didn't invite them. And that was the moment where I really realized, like, this has gone too far and I need to change. And you know what? Those moments of rock bottom, those moments of realization are the best thing that somebody can come by. And I think if you're watching this video, then maybe you have reached that rock bottom, or maybe it has reminded you of a rock bottom that you've already reached. Or maybe you just want to consider a new perspective on something, I guess. But another thing is that I feel like other people do this in a healthy way. Like, I see my friends, my peers, they all celebrate at awards ceremonies. After ceremonies, they go eat with their families. They go do whatever they do when they get all A's on the report card, or when they win a competition or whatever. And I've just like never done that. My family tried to do that for me. Like, I did have that when I was younger. It doesn't stem from my childhood. It's just that internally I was like so logical about it that it was just like, I don't feel like I need to do this. And it was honestly irritating. And it was not productive, I've realized, in the long term. And you know what? Somebody introduced an idea to me, and it's kind of a counter to this. And it's asking yourself the question, when did you feel proud? When have you felt proud of your achievements? When have you felt like you wanted to give yourself credit for your achievements? And for me, that was when I was really young, at dance competitions, when I really valued it. Or maybe when I finished playing a piano piece, or when I make a really good coffee or dessert recipe. Like, those are the things I value. Those are the things I'm really passionate about. Or in my business, when I closed my first client, God, I was ecstatic. So you know what? I think that's actually the first step in realizing this whole thing, that, you know what, it actually feels really good to give yourself credit for your achievements. And I will get into why now. It's why it's bad to not give yourself credit. And the first thing is that it is going to lead to burnout. Eventually, down the line. Like I said before, I did have that rock bottom where I realized, like, what have I been doing for the last 17 years of my life, where I just don't feel like I've done anything of significance, because I just wasn't giving myself credit for those achievements. I wasn't acknowledging them. So when you aren't really giving yourself credit for achievements, you're not going to see how much those are affecting the results, right? So that's basically the formula for burnout. Like, you're not feeling like the results that you're getting are worth the amount of work that you're putting in. So like, if you're working minimum wage for somebody for 40 hours, and then you come home and then you only have like $50 to yourself, like, you are going to get burnt out eventually if nothing changes with your finances, because the results don't correlate with the amount of work that you're doing. Do you get what I mean? So if you aren't really acknowledging your achievements with this principle that I just introduced, if you aren't really acknowledging your achievements, your progress, you're going to get burnt out, because you're putting all this work in with seemingly no results, because you aren't acknowledging those results as you should, as like I guess somebody normal does. Somebody normal, as I'm assuming normal, whatever. But secondly, it leads to imposter syndrome. Just factually, like, if you're not giving yourself credit, you won't feel like you've accomplished anything, right? So once you already have it, it's also a cause to not give yourself credit for your achievements. So it's like a big cycle. So imposter syndrome stems from the fact that you don't feel like you've achieved anything. You don't feel like you deserve the things that you've achieved either. So if you're not giving yourself credit for the results that you're having, it's not really gonna influence your identity at all. And because it doesn't influence your identity, you're gonna develop imposter syndrome. Because you're feeling like, oh, but all of the results that I've been getting, it either wasn't my fault or I didn't put enough work into it to deserve that, or I didn't do this or that or whatever. And it is going to lead to imposter syndrome because you feel like all of the work that you're putting in, you're going to feel like all of the things that you're putting in, not necessarily work, because if you do have imposter syndrome, you're not going to believe that it's work. All of the things that you're putting in to your life that are giving you the results that you're getting, it doesn't feel like your results because you don't think that you're working hard enough to get there, or that you've just not accomplished anything in general, like you don't deserve it. And it's just inevitable for that to happen if you don't give yourself credit for your achievements, because you're just not going to it's not going to affect your identity at all. And that's why imposter syndrome exists in the first place. You know what I mean? So, but I also want to talk about the counter of this. I want to talk about the reasons why I was like this for so long, like why I didn't realize this was a problem. And the main thing that I told myself always when I was just stuffing away my awards in my closet was just that, oh, I'm just being humble. Like, this is the only way that I could be humble. But I want to read, like, the definition of humbleness to really break this down. It is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. And I want to break it down because showing humbleness versus feeling it internally is entirely different. If you're showing humbleness, that just means you aren't bragging. You aren't really trying to put yourself out there as somebody who's better than everybody else. That's being humble. What is not being humble is feeling that humbleness internally. Feeling humble internally is just another way of saying that you're not appreciating your achievements. And I know this because that's how I rationalized it for so long. I just told myself I'm feeling humble for my achievements by just not feeling proud of them, basically. I didn't realize this at the time. It was a subconscious idea. I was like, yes, I am very proud of my achievements. And then I'd stuff my awards in the back of my mind and not want to celebrate and not feel like celebrating. So I was essentially lying to myself. But in humbleness, there's a faint line between feeling proud of your achievements and not trying to brag. But on the other hand, there's the other side of where you truly feel that your achievements don't mean anything. And the second thing that I rationalized this idea for myself was that I didn't have enough time to celebrate my achievements. I didn't have enough time to acknowledge my achievements because I was just like, you know what, go, go, go. If I got one thing right, then it's time for the next one. It was basically like a to-do list. Like, I got all A's this semester, okay, next semester too. Like, it just didn't mean anything to me. So I just, kept going. I was like, you know what, I don't have enough time to celebrate. Like, I got something else to focus on. And I'm the type of person that always keeps myself busy. So it is very true that I also did have something else to focus on. But that doesn't mean that it was healthy to just keep going and never acknowledging what you've already accomplished, the results that you've already achieved. Because like I said, it could lead to burnout and imposter syndrome. And then the third way I rationalized it to myself was that I thought I was being stoic. by not really feeling proud of my achievements. And I am very into the philosophy of Stoicism with Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, those people. But that's not what Stoicism is about at all. Stoicism is about being objective. And if you're being objective, you are also acknowledging your results and your achievements. Being stoic doesn't mean ignoring your past so that you don't feel this high. It also means that you should acknowledge what you've done. It's all about being objective, and being objective does include acknowledging what you've done. It's just like, it's just not true. Like, the way I was rationalizing it just wasn't true. Like, that's not what Stoicism is at all. And I also want to talk about, like, why does this happen? Because there's a reason for everything. And a big one is that a lot of high achievers, especially, like, they have this long list of to-dos of what they want to do. So achieving a goal just feels like you're crossing something off the list. And this kind of happened with me, where I was like, you know what, I just want to keep going and going and going. And so that's just exactly what I did. But secondly, like, you might just not value the things you've achieved a goal with. And I talked about this in the beginning, and I think it's very true. Because when I do achieve something, and something that I'm very passionate about, I do feel accomplished. I do feel like special. I feel of importance. So I really think, like, that's a critical reason of why someone might not feel like they've accomplished anything, or why they're not really feel like they're achieving anything, or really ignoring it at that. And thirdly, it could be because, like, you have low self-esteem, or just don't have high confidence. So, like, even if you do something impressive, you automatically diminish it. So, for example, like, somebody might tell you, like, oh, like, good job on the first place of a reading and writing competition, and you're like, oh, well, actually, I just take a lot of inspiration from this one author, and actually I just copied everything from them, so I actually don't think it was my original idea, and you know what I mean. So not only is it annoying to the person that's trying to compliment you, it's also so unproductive to yourself. Imagine you were that person trying to compliment you, and then you were just like, no, actually, it's just like, just take the compliment. Please, it is incredibly frustrating when you really care about somebody and you want to give them a compliment and they're just like, no. And it does stem from low self-esteem. And that is a general statement. It could stem from other things, but I'd say 80% of the time that does stem from low self-esteem. If you are just diminishing the compliments that people are trying to give you, diminishing what people are trying to congratulate you in, and therefore diminishing your accomplishments and not acknowledging them. And fourthly, this could stem from childhood as well. Like, maybe people never really acknowledge that you achieve things in your childhood. Like, maybe you got all A's and then your family just, like, did nothing for it. They gave you, like, no award. They were like, yep, that's the standard. That's it. And you know what? That does happen to a lot of people. So I think that this isn't an excuse if it did happen in your childhood. Because at the end of the day, I know that you didn't choose your childhood, but you are going to be the one responsible for your mentality for it. And if you realize that if you realize that you are responsible for your mentality, then it's going to help you grow so much in the long term. Because once you realize that, you also realize that you can improve from that. You can improve from your foundation that you have from your childhood that you couldn't really choose. So now you can just improve yourself upon that. And just know as well that your childhood is static. It's never going to change. It's your past. But your development isn't static. You can always continue developing in one way or another. Unless you're, like, enlightened or something. I don't know. But yeah. And finally, I want to cover, how can I stop this? Because that's really the whole point of this video, right? It's not really just to talk about not acknowledging your achievements and analyzing it, I also want to give something for you to do, hopefully, and for me to do at that. And like I said, I am still working on this as well. But personally, I think that you don't need to feel happy every time you accomplish something. I think that's incredibly unrealistic as somebody who has gone through this. You don't need to feel happy every time you accomplish one little thing. And I feel like that's the narrative that the media gives you. It's just like, oh, be proud of yourself. You did this. You need to give yourself credit. But it's like all of the time. Like, I don't think I'm gonna do that, honestly. And I don't think that's really a bad thing. I think what's important is that you give yourself credit for your achievements, at least when it counts, at least when it's something that you really care about, at least when it's one of your passions. Then go out to eat, go watch a movie. I don't know how you celebrate, but I'd say do that, But I just don't think this narrative that like, oh, you got 100 on your test, go out, celebrate, be happy. Like, what if that's something that's really normal for you? Like, over time, as a human natural response, it's not going to feel as rewarding anymore. And that just is what it is. And people around you are also going to tell you, along with the media, like, oh, you need to go celebrate. But it's like, what if it's something I don't really care about? But yeah, that was a short little slightly emotional rant. But anyway, and like, as someone who's gone through this, achievements are just going to feel like crossing off something of a to-do list, honestly. And secondly, I think you should introspect. If this does have to do with confidence, if this does have to do with low self-esteem and rejecting your achievements, which will rapidly lead to imposter syndrome. And I want to emphasize that fact because I feel like people in this situation don't really realize that it's bad. People don't really have the self-awareness to want to change as much. So once you realize it's bad, once you're really at your rock bottom, that's when you're really going to change. So that's why I emphasize, like, it will lead to imposter syndrome, because that's just how it is, honestly. So a lot of people with low self-esteem just shut down praise entirely. If it's about their looks, about their achievements, whatever. But in this case, achievements. So I'd say ask yourself, if you can, why you have low self-esteem. Whether it's your past, your present. Maybe there are some bad influences in your life and you know this. You're self-aware to know where your self-esteem issues come from. And I'd say introspect on that. And I can't really give advice on that because this is such a big, broad, general topic that I say just introspect. Because I feel like you, intuitively, you will know what you need to do. You will know, like, your steps a lot. The human mind is very intelligent. Like, you're gonna know what you can do. You just really have to introspect and realize what you should come to, I think. And thirdly, I'd say connect to yourself and your values. Because, like I said, I do think that it's very, very much easier to acknowledge your achievements when it's something that you actually value. If I win first place in a competition for something I didn't care, it's going to be like, woo, and then I'm going to move on. But, like, after I got my first client in my business, I was, like, happy for a whole week. I was like, yes, this is going to go great. I'm going to be amazing. And it was just so much more fulfilling to have something that I was passionate about. And small tangent, but I think if you don't know what you're passionate about to begin with, then that also requires introspection. And I think there are periods in life where people just don't really know what they're passionate about. There are periods where people just have this limbo phase, I guess, where they just don't know what to do. And I think that's completely okay. Like, you don't need to have everything figured out right now. In fact, I made a video on that. Like, it's fine to have those periods where you're just in limbo. You're like, I don't know what I want to do with my future. I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I want to have as my passion. But I think the main thing for that is just introspection and time. If you do feel like you're in limbo, what makes you happy right now? And why do you think that makes you happy? Because if you just simply ask yourself, like, what makes you happy, that's going to lead you to a lot of your values. If it's friends, then maybe you just value your relationships a lot. And that's, you can start from there. And I think, finally, the most important step is that you should just realize when you're going back and not acknowledging your achievements. Because I think awareness is the first step of everything. And it's really the foundation of how you can improve yourself in your life and how you can really grow and build upon what you've learned in your past and what you've learned in other people's past as well. What you've learned from other people. I'm a really big advocate for that. Just learning from other people, learning from your past, learning so that you can consistently improve. There will be dips, but like just raggedy upward. I like that idea. But yeah, that's all I really have for today. Song recommendation. You know what? You know what's in my head? Nobody by Mitski. So I'll put that in the description. It is kind of a popular song, but it's alright. No underground artists today, even though they usually kind of aren't underground. I don't know, but yeah. Okay, Mitski. Mitski it is.